I'm hoping for the best as well. And happy Friday to you all. Eric Nielsen even says, hoping for the best. Drick is here hanging out with us. Golf Dog is. Christine giving us the silver insights. Thank you, Christine. David Austin hanging out with us back to back days. How's the sound? I did some tinkering and I even have more to go. You'll see what I'm talking about here soon enough. Now, we've got the Senate going on today. Who the heck knows what is going to go on with them, to be honest with you. No idea what's going to go on with the Senate. No freaking clue-a-roni. Just showing you my dashboard. I know what's going on with the crypto market, and I know what's going on with y'all. We're waiting for these peeps to come on. Christine says, I'm holding, and we'll go down with the ship, just not a quitter. Yeah, I mean, the thing is this, we might be experiencing a little bit of pullback in the markets. And to be honest with you, if silver and gold pull back a little bit, that's the sign that things aren't as hectic or aren't as crazy as they could be. That's a good sign for you and me as people. Like, not for like gold and silver as an investment, but if it means that the market is starting to calm the F down, that's a good thing for just us as like living day to day. Greetings, everyone. Silly Sam is hanging out in the house. R. Schmidt as well says, good times, bad times. You know, I've had my share. Dude, every market has had this. What about housing? We've seen housing get wiped out only to frickin' like roar back. I remember lumber prices were cheap as crap. Then all of a sudden the Rona happened, and then guess what? Lumber prices shot up. I remember wanting to do a new GPU. I think it was like 3 years ago. I'm trying to think. I think it was 3 years ago. I was looking for a new GPU, and GPU prices were freaking insane. Why? Because like the miners out there, they needed GPUs. I was like, holy crap. So like we've seen over this last like chunk of time, like recent terms since the Rona, the pandemic action, we have seen markets like globally just be nuts so volatile. I mean, bonkers ass volatile. So just kind of keep that in mind. You're seeing a lot of just spikes. Used cars. Remember, used cars at one time were more expensive than new cars. Wait, what? You also had people paying 30-40% premiums on sticker price. Now those cars are flipped upside down. You're seeing every market just freaking rocket ship and poop, and money is jumping from thing to thing to thing. Liquidity, yes, is there, but it's only going to the things that are hot. Hot Donna. Jeff Zen says, smash the like, people. I appreciate it. Lauren from Metro Detroit hanging out with us in the house. Hello, Lauren. Used cars and trucks were nuts, I know. Been there. Been living through it. Housing. If you bought a house before the pandemic and a house now, that house is worth a shit ton more. Yeah, it's had some pullbacks in the market, but it's still up like a crap ton. That's what I'm saying. Like, we're seeing just jump to jump in these financial markets. Crypto has like its times. Let's be real here. Zoom out to crypto and you can see, look, XRP has had its times, but it also goes dormant. Silver has been boring for a long, long time. Look at it. Zoom out to the chart on silver. For a long time, it was 20, 25 bucks, and people were like, who really cares? And then all of a sudden, rocket ship nutso bonkers. Yeah. So you're just seeing this just rotate. It's very interesting to watch. The AI play. You notice how now you don't hear as many people talking about AI anymore? It's kind of like that was kind of big, and now it's like really calming down a little bit. Even some of the AI plays out there aren't as high as they were price-wise. Just putting it out there. Little iced coffee today out of a Tampa Bay Rays Stadium Cup. What the hell is going on? I got a White Sox hoodie on. It's because I saw the Sox play the Rays in Tampa. The shittiest stadium I have ever been to. The worst baseball experience ever was at a Tampa stadium. Been to a few places. That was the whole worst. I do not think gold and silver have topped out. Let me have a little drink-a-roni right here. And Lawrence says, almost had no shutdown. They must play games. It's true. totally playing games. Johnny Coathanger says, bought a home in 2008 for 380, now worth 800. That's my point. Oh shit, I almost knocked my drink over. I can't do that. That's exactly my point. You're seeing like things just like absolutely just go bonkers here. I mean, I think a lumber is one of the perfect ones. Like, dude, like people were charging like insane amounts to like build a deck. Oh, here we go.
Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The clerk will read a communication to the Senate.
Washington, D.C., January 30th, 2026. To the Senate, under the provisions of Rule 1, Paragraph 3 of the Standing Rules of the Senate, I hereby appoint the Honorable John Barrasso, a senator from the state of Wyoming, to perform the duties of the chair, signed Chuck Grassley, President pro tempore.
Under the previous order, the leadership time is reserved. Morning business is closed. And under the previous order, the Senate will resume consideration of the motion to proceed to H.R. 7148, which the clerk will report.
Motion to proceed to calendar number 302, H.R. 7148, an act making further consolidated appropriations for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2026, and for other purposes.
So they just started. They got to go through their procedural stuff. As soon as they get that done, you'll start seeing people file in. And yeah, we'll see what these McRardos got for us today. All right. When these people start talking, I'll mute the mic and we'll go to them. But they seem to be taking their sweet butt time today. Yeah, the David Schwartz thing. You know, I've heard a couple people talk about it. I personally have not seen it. Let me see if I can get you a little bit of what was it. So David Schwartz said something. Hold on, let me see. And remember, David Schwartz is boobla. He's not. He's a very brilliant person, but like, remember, he was not a good person when in terms for like Ripple spokesperson. David Schwartz. Where's David Schwartz? Okay. Let's see. Where's his post? Does anyone know what his post looks like? Anyone? What post y'all talking about where David Schwartz was saying? Here we go. I see it right here. David Schwartz says this, but I will say this. If many rational people believe there's a 10% chance that XRP would hit 100 within a few years, they definitely wouldn't sell very much today at much less $10. Those with that belief would quickly buy up most of the XRP because they value it more highly than those without that belief, and soon the supply of XRP would be below $10 would dry up. That current trading price is well below $10 shows that there aren't very many people who really think it has a 10% chance of hitting $100. So Schwartz throwing a little poo-poo flame into the XRP price talk. What's up with that? He says, you can do the math yourself for different prices, percentages, and time frames. My personal belief is that most cryptocurrency prices are in fact rational most of the time and actually reflect a reasonable analysis of their potential future prices and profitabilities associated with them. I also personally believe that most significant crypto bull runs were due to unpredictable external changes. Interesting. So David Schwartz really doesn't see XRP going pretty bonkers on here price-wise, huh? Yeah, may the Schwartz be with you. I mean, you know, now that obviously he's not like the big guy at like Ripple, like he's kind of stepped down, he has that new role. He's kind of let it fly a little bit more, which has been cool to see. I got to be honest with you. And so he doesn't have to worry about like, you know, pissing off Ripple. He's just doing advising roles for Evernorth, which is fine. So we're cool there. But essentially David Schwartz is kind of poo-pooing on thing, man. Just throwing it out there. Huh. I have a little bit of iced coffee this morning. Thank you very much. My Tampa Bay Rays cup. Older probate says, hopefully no sucky McBalls reach around today. Yeah, you know, they should get this knocked out. What, you know, they always dink around in the beginning. There's always some backroom talk, and there's a fear that they're gonna stall. But the reality is we should hopefully get this funding stuff through for a 2-week extension. That would be great. But to be honest with you, the whole DHS thing is a big problem. Like, the Democrats are really looking at as a line in the sand. For those of you watching right now, the Senate, like, literally just clocked in. Remember, they're in no rush. They can go at this for a long time. Welcome to the Senate. As soon as I get an updated schedule for you, I will post one because we might be breaking this down into a couple streams just based on how they might take a lunch break, just throwing it out there. Yeah, they might show up to work for an hour and then take a lunch break. We might be dealing with that. Let's see. So what's with Brad's lock-in talk? Let's do that, right? Let's talk about Brad Garlinghouse because I'm assuming that's what you're talking about. Is Brad Garlinghouse, and does he have lock-in talk? Let's see what he says. Is there any lock-in talk? From Brad Garlinghouse, the last couple of weeks have been an absolute firestorm of action to get the market structure bill passed. While the banking GOP group, clears its logjam, congrats are in order to the ag group for advancing the Senate ag thing. As I've said before, clarity is better than chaos. The legislative process can be messy and complex, but it is 100% necessary to have clarity for this in the future generation of crypto entrepreneurs, builders, and users of this tech, as it becomes increasingly ingrained into our global infrastructure. Interesting. So Garlinghouse coming out saying, look, we need to get this done. We need to get this done. Okay. So what do y'all think about Schwartz poo-pooing the price action? No, I have not pulled any more. I haven't broken any packs for a while, to be honest with you. I really can't. I really can say that I have. Just throwing it out there. Hyperliquid doing its thing, pumps and dumps. This is the 1 week chart for Hyperliquid. Why am I bringing this up? Because they went from $22 to 34 back to 28. That's just the 1 week chart. Zoom out to the 1 month and you're like, holy crap. Zoom out to the 1 year and you're like, whoa, this happens often. Be prepared, everyone, for volatility in crypto to be absolutely crazy until we know if we're going to have a clear path to regs. Look, for regs to happen, you need 7 votes from the Democrats. We have seen that has been the hardest thing to get this session of Congress, right? Is those 7 votes in the Senate. You just haven't seen them. It's been voting down party lines. So we need those crypto votes. And to get those crypto votes, or until we know if we're going to get those crypto votes, the market's going to be very, very volatile. And Hyperliquid's a very good example of that. Softness in XRP here as of late. 5 billion in volume. So exchanges are making money on this nasty dropperoni. Nasty one. This is the 1 month chart. That's not good. Let's see. Older Probate says, I have seen where Schwartz said XRP wasn't designed to be cheap. Yeah, but that was during the whole, like, XRP is going to move money shit hype thing that Ripple had going on. And that got replaced with stable coins. Everyone's kind of understood that. Yeah, Boobala. Yeah, I wonder with Boobala what his deal is. I wonder. I really do. And it's true. As soon as RLUSD came on the screen, Ripple started pimping the ever-living hell out of that. And then what Schwartz even said, for those of you that are paying attention, Schwartz was even like, all right, cool. I'm going to do my own XRPL thing because I really believe in that. That's very, very important. Very significant to pay attention to. Senate, we're just waiting for them. They appear to be taking their sweet A time. Just throwing it out there for you. We could see some nastiness today. Obviously, that wouldn't be good for crypto markets. Hopefully, they get this done quick, though. Hopefully, they reach their backroom deals. What do I think about Kevin Warsh? Kevin Warsh got picked to replace Jerome Powell. I think Warsh is just going to do what Trump says. And then, like, I think it's 6 years that they're in. I think it's 6 years. So he would be in for a couple years for the next president, too. So, to be honest with you, he would have to pretty much do what the next president does, too. I mean, we've seen that, how they pressure the Fed. Nothing exciting. I mean, there's nothing really, really cool about this guy that's like, yeah, this is going to be great for us. If it means the back half of this year we get lower rates, that's good. That could free up a little bit of housing action right here. I'm awesome with that. Totally awesome with that. Yeah. There we go. What is everyone thinking about this morning? I'm thinking about the Senate taking their sweet ass time. I'm also paying attention to the silver charts. 97.27. Let's go to the 5-day on silver and zoom out just a little bit. In fact, we'll take that to the month. Check this out. We've seen these moves before where silver has moved up and pulled back only to move up stronger, pull back, move. I mean, it's been a run, to say the least. No need, but supply and demand will help the price. Yeah, supply and demand will definitely help out the price. The thing is, what are people using it for other than investing, like, as a speculative asset? There has to be, like, silver, circuit boards, batteries, machinery, equipment, sensors, jewelry. Silver's got a lot of, like, tangible uses. And that's what we still need to see come from crypto is widespread tangible use. Not just as a trading asset, but like as an asset that's actually used for something too. Is it as a payment, as we've seen with stable coins? Are people using crypto to back things? Not so much anymore. Some loans with BTC and ETH, but you don't see it too much with the alts anymore. And plus, would you really want to use your XRP to back a loan if you got to worry about 30, 40, 50% drops in value? You'd have to put in more collateral then. Well, that kind of sucks because I've never bought a home where I've had to put more collateral in partway to the loan because my collateral is worth shit. It's my point. Miguel Casillas says, I'm thinking I should have sold at 340. I figured it was going higher this time as around opposed to last cycle. Boy, I was wrong. Look, the whole thing with price, you're never going to time the top and you're never going to time the bottom. The idea is you just want to make sure you're making gains. Like making gains. Like if you just keep making gains and gains and gains and gains, guess what? You will be somewhere. But if you're always swinging for the fences, like if you're always going for the grand slam, or if you're always going for the fly pattern in football deep route, you know what's going to happen. Sometimes you're going to get picked off. Sometimes you're going to swing and miss because you were swinging for the moon. Yeah, you might hit that grand slam every so often, but let's be real here. Batters look at it. Don't want to go down the sports thing. I'm wearing a White Sox hoodie. Leave me alone. So there you go. There's different segments you have to look at. This is one of them. The utility, the usage part of it. And, people talk about, like bridge currencies and banks and payments. None of that has helped the price out at all. The price has been moved not by the utility or usage of crypto. The price of crypto has been moved on what? Politics, geopolitical BS, uneasiness in the globe. Trump and Elon had a little turf war with each other on Twitter. That sank crypto down. Miguel Casillas says, no, keep going. I love baseball. I love baseball too. I want my baseball action. I'm getting excited for some Sox baseball. I'm probably going to go to some Atlanta games this year. I am probably going to have to go to some Braves games this year, see what I can come up with. I like it. Bama Boy says, what comes down will go up. Not necessarily will go up, it can go up. I mean, housing got crushed in 2008. We're almost coming up to like 20 years of that. Housing got crushed, and now housing is crazy expensive. Taco Bell, what goes down must come up. Yeah, that's Taco Bell's saying right there. Let's see. Benjamin says XRP was only used to raise capital for Ripple once there was no need to say goodbye to XRP. Ripple does use XRP for capital. That's like well documented, well open. Everyone knows about it, and that's what my whole thesis was for a company that's using an asset. Are they using it to their best abilities, or are they just throwing it around like drunken sailors? No disrespect to any sailors watching, unless it's Michael Saylor, and then you suck balls because your AI art is horrible. Speaking of Wang and Saylor, let's go see if Saylor has some cringe AI art. I have not taken a look at that. Way down here. Here we go. All right, what does he got here? All right, come on, Sailor. Oh, he's going to talk about MicroStrategy. Oh, yeah, great. Shut up, loser. Where's his AI art? Dude, has he calmed down on the AI art? Whoa, what is going on with this? Oh, shit, here it is, the chessboard again. Damn it. Bitcoin is the end game. Oh, God, this is so fucking gay. Yeah, like, that's so horrible. Oh, and I can't, yeah. Oh. For real, be cool. And you put a picture of yourself in it, you are like an egotistical whack, man. Ugh. Still waiting for the Senate to come back. As you can see, they're taking their sweet butt time. Way to go here. Senate reconvened at 11. We're still waiting for him. See, look. He's just sitting here looking at his piece of paper. Like, hey, what's going on? He's reading his crypto prices. Oh, God. David Austin says, I gotta say, you guys are kind of talking me out of XRP and making me regret my decision to sell this piece of crap, blah, blah, blah. It's no, like, crypto has, like, action. It's just when it happens, like, it's a very small time period. You have to think, this isn't anything new. For those of us who've been doing this for years, remember when the Torres decision happened? And everyone was like, oh man, we're going to $10. You know what I mean? And we saw what happened. The Torres decision didn't even get us like $1. And it like lasted for like the shortest amount of time, like hardly anything time-wise. And we were all just like, oh, well, this is pretty crappy, isn't it? And yeah, here's the Torres pump. Look at this. The Torres pump hit July 13th went from a low of 47 cents as a high of 88 cents. That's July, okay? 88 cents, that's it, on a tourist pump. From July 13 all the way over here to the 17th of August. So a month and 4 days later, it erased the gains completely. Dude, we've seen this before. Like, this is totally the same thing. This is just how crypto is. Crypto isn't like something that you see kind of gradually work its way up without speed bumps. No, man. Crypto is like just driving with your crew while being crossfaded, like on a holiday weekend where you got a chance of getting caught, you got a chance of getting home. Like it's risky stuff. Let me get a little drink out here right here. Sailor will ship out soon enough. I love it. Christine says he thinks he's a narcissist. I think so. His stuff's really cringy. And it all features him too, which is like the worst part about it. Like all the cringe stuff is a lot of like him like taming a little bear. I will say he has posted a lot less. He is trying to pimp out MicroStrategy stock, MSTR. The big problem with MSTR is, you're going to see...
Mr. President.
The Minority Leader.
They're back.
Mr. President, as the Senate gavels into session, members working on moving forward on a deal to fund the government and to work on As the Senate gavels into session, members are working on moving forward on a deal to fund the government and working on legislation desperately needed to rein in ICE's abuses. If Republicans are serious about the very reasonable demands Democrats have put forward on ICE, then there is no good reason we can't come together very quickly to produce legislation. It should take less than 2 weeks because what we're asking for is very simple, and our Republican colleagues know that we need to make changes. Now, time is of the essence. Senate Democrats are very clear on what the nation needs right now. First, we need to rein in ICE and end the violence. That means ending roving patrols. It means requiring rules, oversight, and judicial warrants. Second, we need real accountability over ICE and the Border Patrol. And third, masks need to come off, cameras need to stay on, and officers need visible identification. No secret police. These are not radical demands. They're basic standards the American people already expect from law enforcement. I hope we can get voting quickly here in the Senate today so we can move forward on the important work of reining in ICE. The clock is ticking, the nation is waiting, and the abuses of ICE must come to an end. On another issue, last night, federal agents arrested journalist Don Lemon in Los Angeles after he recently covered protest activities in Minnesota. Once again, the administration is behaving no differently from police states and authoritarian regimes across history. They've arrested a journalist for the crime of doing his job. And let's be very clear, this arrest is not just about one journalist in one incident. The arrest is a dark message to journalists everywhere. If you dare criticize this administration, watch your back. That's not a democracy. That's a police state. And that is pure authoritarian bile. Democracy will suffer if the government chokes our civil liberties. Under this administration, the Department of Justice has all too often become the Department of Vengeance. Don Lemon should be released at once and the frivolous charges against him dropped. Now on the Fed. This morning, President Trump announced he's chosen Kevin Warsh to serve as the next chair of the Federal Reserve. This announcement comes as a dark cloud hangs over the Fed. Over the last year, Donald Trump has gone to lengths no president has gone to before to harass, intimidate, and coerce the Fed to serve his own political interests instead of what's good for the United States economy. His administration has pushed frivolous attacks against Lisa Cook. They've pushed bogus accusations and investigations against Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. These attacks undermine the independence of one of the most important entities in the world economy. So I'd simply say this about Mr. Warsh. Donald Trump is trying to cannibalize the Federal Reserve to eliminate its independence. And Mr. Warsh has an obligation to ensure that does not happen. He must make clear that he would keep the Fed independent and free from Donald Trump's bullying, or else he must not be confirmed. And if Donald Trump won't drop his vendetta against the Fed, weaponizing the Justice Department to go after Powell and Cook, Republicans must not move Mr. Warsh's nomination forward. I yield the floor.
The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsobrooks.
All right, so we can have a roll call, and anyone can stall the roll call. Democrats or Republicans can stall it by not being there for the roll call. But as you can tell, they're kind of taking their time a little bit right here. Bruce Hansen has a funny. Says, I actually agree with the Democrats to remove masks. Yeah, I also would like to make sure that masks get removed, because a lot of people tend to wear masks when they're protesting, and that's a little weird. There's kind of a coincidence there, because there's a lot of mask-wearing people when they're going inside the Apple store, if you get what I'm saying. I know that's organized crime. Leave me alone. I'm taking a jab. Come on. Come on, we're letting this thing go. George Jingles, let's get this moving. So slow like paint drying. Ha 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 ha. Well done. Let's see. Yeah, masks removed. That's going to be a big kind of thing here. DHS is actually at the center of all this. What happened in Minneapolis, the two incidents that happened, have really put a divide in the politics and the usage of tools like ICE that fall under the DHS umbrella, right? And that's where the budget, the funding gets held up here by the Senate, is the funding for ICE comes through DHS. Yeah, he wasn't talking about those masks. I know, but I was talking about those masks. At first I thought he was talking about, people using masks when they protest, but only when they protest. Like, like, come on. Ugh. I remember saying the Pledge of Allegiance every morning in school. Do they still do that in schools? I don't know. I haven't been in school for a while. They do it here. Cool. They're bringing in some, people. Oh, look at this. It looks like we've got a poster board or a whiteboard here in the corner. Oh, shit. Look at this. Oh, we're going to get some fucking drawings today, everyone. Buckle up, because we're going to get some drawings today. This is going to be exciting. Except for the fact that these a-holes can drag this crap out for so long. I can draw too. Actually, here, I'll put whiteboard in. Let's go to whiteboard. I recently did one. Westside K-Dog says, yes, my kid still does. Well done. I was kind of showing everyone where we were in terms of regs right now. We're waiting for the Senate Banking
Senator from Missouri.
Committee.
We had a quorum call.
We are.
I'd ask unanimous consent to vitiate said quorum call.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the coming weeks, Washington will spend an enormous amount of time arguing about immigration enforcement. There will be speeches, there'll be statements, there'll be plenty of noise. But beneath all of that, the debate before us is far simpler and far more serious. There are two visions competing for the future of this country. One vision holds that immigration law should be enforced, that borders matter, that citizenship means something, and that a nation has both the right and the obligation to decide who may enter, who may remain, and under what rules. The other vision treats our sovereignty itself as immoral. In that vision, borders are an imperialist evil. The law is a fascist oppression, and our identity as Americans is a source of guilt and shame rather than pride and celebration. All of these ideas are connected. For the kinds of people who are attacking federal law enforcement in the streets of Minneapolis, they believe that we don't deserve to enforce our laws as a nation because they believe we don't deserve to exist as a nation. They're not hiding the ball. You can hear it very clearly in their slogans, quote, "No one is illegal on stolen land," end quote. So that's what this is. It's a debate about whether the United States remains a nation or not. The rule of law is essential to the American constitutional order. It is the clearest, most visible expression of self-government. A people cannot enforce its own laws, cannot meaningfully govern itself. As much as some of my colleagues across the aisle wish it was, immigration law is not some break with long-standing norms. A country that cannot say who belongs cannot remain a country at all for very long. Every serious nation understands this. Throughout history, societies that endured were willing to defend their borders, uphold their laws, and insist that citizenship carried obligations as well as benefits, without apology or shame. To understand what's at stake, we must be honest, fully honest, about what the Democrats are demanding, what that vision would mean in practice, and why it represents a fundamental break with the idea of America as a sovereign nation. To understand what lies ahead, we must be honest about what the Democrats are demanding and what it would mean in practice. They speak the language of accountability, of oversight, of reform. Those words sound reasonable enough. They're meant to. But when you strip away the euphemisms, when you look at the substance rather than the slogans, the demands all converge on a single outcome: robbing us of the power to enforce our immigration laws. This is not by accident. It's the continuation of a project that has been explicit for years. Abolish ICE, they say. Defund ICE. Pick your slogan, it doesn't matter. It's all part of the same project. Open borders and uncontrolled, unvetted, unlimited mass immigration. In the left-wing worldview, anything less than this is unacceptable and an unacceptable crime against humanity. For them, the problem is not illegal immigration. The problem is any and every attempt to stop it. That worldview rejects a basic premise of nationhood, that a people has the right to decide who may enter, who may remain, and under what rules. It denies that citizenship carries meaning, that membership entails obligation, or that law applies equally to those who violate it. And when a society reaches that point, when it treats enforcement as an offense and anarchy as virtue, it begins to dissolve from within. The end state of this Democrat vision is plain as day. Maybe ICE continues to exist, but only in name. The law remains on the books, but only on paper. Illegal presence becomes permanent by default, not because Congress voted for it, but because enforcement has been made impossible. You don't actually have to pass a law called amnesty to get the same effect. But this is an abdication of our duty to the American people. To understand how this vision is being put into effect, how our immigration laws are being hollowed out without ever being repealed, we must look closely at the specific demands now being advanced and what each one is designed to accomplish. The Democrat vision doesn't begin by repealing the law. It begins by making enforcement personally dangerous and professionally impossible. It's clever, actually. It's twisted. They get to say, see, we don't believe in open borders. We're not repealing any of our fundamental immigration laws because many of their demands aren't actually going after the law. They're going after the people tasked with enforcing it. But of course, as they know very well, that gets them the same exact outcome. And that's no accident. History teaches a simple lesson. If you want a law to die without repealing it, make its enforcement intolerable. I'm not going to spend much time debating the Democrats' demands for DHS as we roll into this 2-week debate, 3-week debate, 4-week debate, whatever it's going to be. There'll be plenty of time for that over the coming weeks. And I look forward to being on this floor dissecting each one of their proposals and how disastrous it would be for our country. But consider for a brief moment the demand that officers remove their masks and identify themselves publicly during operations. This is a clear and obvious attempt to intimidate and put our federal agents in harm's way. ICE officers are already being doxxed. Their names and addresses are posted online. Their families are harassed. Their homes are targeted. No one would demand this of narcotics officers, counterterrorism agents, or fugitive task forces because we understand that exposing law enforcement to retaliation is sabotage. The effect is obvious and very well intended. Make enforcement personally dangerous. Make every operation an invitation to harassment. Make every officer a target. When the state refuses to protect its own agents, it sends a message, one louder than any speech, that enforcement is something to be ashamed of, not supported. And when enforcement becomes dangerous for enforcers, enforcement does not survive. What emerges is not reform, it's amnesty by default. Not the kind debated openly. Not the kind voted on. Not the kind Democrats would have to openly defend to the American people, but amnesty achieved through attrition, through delay, exhaustion, and paralysis, so that no one has to claim responsibility for the result. Every step along this path points the same direction. The collapse is not accidental, and once amnesty becomes the default, once presence becomes permanent simply by waiting, the idea of a nation governed by law gives way to something far more fragile, a territory administered by drift. That is the future vision that is produced here. Today, I want to lay out another vision before this body, one grounded not in drift or denial, but in law, order, and national survival. Enforcement in the honest application of the rules that everyone can see, understand, and live by. Law without consequence is not compassion, it is chaos. And chaos always falls hardest on the innocent, the lawful, and the most vulnerable. This vision rejects the moral inversion that has come to dominate the debate so far in the last few days here. It rejects the idea that those who break the law are the only ones deserving of sympathy, while those who enforce it must apologize for doing their jobs. It rejects enforcement by permission, supervision by activists, and amnesty by exhaustion. Instead, it affirms something older and sturdier, that order is the foundation of freedom, that rights endure only where duties are enforced, and that a people remain a people only so long as they're willing to defend the rules by which they have to live with together. This vision doesn't ask for new theories or radical departures. It asks for seriousness. It asks for the minimum requirements of sovereignty be treated as non-negotiable. It asks that the law be enforced as law, predictably, humanely, and without apology. Today, I want to lay out a framework, 4 principles, 4 ways to restore enforcement, defend citizenship, and ensure that the United States remains a nation worthy of the name, 4 legislative ideas to protect America. Each one restores something that has been deliberately weakened. Each one reasserts a basic function of sovereignty that no nation can survive or expect to endure. First, end sanctuary cities permanently. Sanctuary policies are not acts of compassion, they are acts of defiance. They announce openly that federal law will be ignored within certain jurisdictions and that those who violate immigration law will be protected from its consequences. This creates a 2-tiered system, one set of rules for citizens and lawful residents, and another for those who enter or remain illegally. That's why we must support my colleague, the senator from South Carolina's bill to end sanctuary cities. A nation cannot survive if its laws stop at the city limits. Conditioning federal funds on cooperation is not punishment, it is reciprocity. If a jurisdiction wants the benefits of federal partnership, it must respect federal law. Anything less is an admission to the nation that it no longer governs itself uniformly. Second, enhance penalties for illegal entry and reentry. Illegal entry is a misdemeanor. It's time to increase that penalty and make it a felony. And for illegal reentry, entering, being deported, and then reentering, we're going to meet that lawless behavior with swift, predictable consequences for that violation. It is the only humane alternative to chaos, backlog, and false hope. When weak penalties on entry allow illegal presence becomes permanent by default. Borders cease to exist in practice, no matter what the law says on paper. Third, protect our law enforcement. We should protect the men and women of law enforcement. I've heard on this floor, including from ridiculous politicians across this country, comparing our men and women of law enforcement to the Gestapo, to Trump's secret police, of a Nazi regime, of an invasion. Pump the brakes. I don't know that you actually believe it, but a lot of the people who are agitating and creating confrontations in dangerous situations on those streets certainly do. Let's recognize law enforcement are increasingly targeted. Obstruction and assault have been normalized. Weak consequences invite escalation. Modern obstruction is sophisticated now. It avoids fists, but achieves the same results. Officers are surrounded, blinded, blocked, and drowned out. Operations are shut down through violence, not through violence, but through chaos engineered to appear peaceful. Protecting officers is not about politics. It's about whether the state stands behind those who serve it. A government that abandons its enforcers invites disorder, because authority that will not defend itself cannot command obedience. Law must protect those who uphold it, or it will not be upheld at all. We must pass my Protect and Respect ICE Act that increases federal penalties for assaulting ICE agents. But we must also be serious about interference and escalation tactics that are becoming more common. So fourth, dismantle rogue NGOs. There are organizations in this country, nominally quote-unquote nonprofits, that materially provide obstruction, incitement, and even violence against law enforcement. They coordinate interference. They publish officer information. They encourage confrontation. And they do so while enjoying tax-exempt status subsidized by the American people. That ends. If an organization materially supports or incites domestic violence or obstruction of federal law enforcement, it is not a charity. It is a political weapon, and it will not receive a penny of taxpayer subsidy. Taken together, these four principles don't harden the nation, they steady it. They replace drift with direction, paralysis with purpose, and apology with resolve. They move us away from amnesty by default and back towards something far more just and enduring, a country governed by law. If the Democrat vision prevails, the consequences will not arrive all at once. They never do. They arrive quietly, incrementally, under the comforting language of reform and restraint, until one day the reality can no longer be denied. Enforcement retreats. Illegal presence becomes permanent. Citizenship is diluted, not by law, but by neglect. The authority of law erodes first at the margins and then at the center. When rules are enforced selectively, obedience becomes optional. When consequences are delayed indefinitely, deterrence disappears. And when a nation signals that persistence matters more than legality, it invites exactly the behavior it claims to oppose. Borders become symbolic. The distinction between lawful and unlawful becomes blurred. And the moral authority of citizenship, earned, protected, and passed on, gives way to a system governed by drift. This is not collapse by invasion, it is collapse by abdication. And it's what happens when a society convinces itself that enforcing its own laws is somehow mean-spirited. while refusing to reckon with the human cost of disorder. Communities stretched thin, public trust eroded, and a growing sense that the rules apply only to those who follow them. Moments like this don't come around very often, but when they do, they clarify things that have been obscured for years. This debate that we're going to have, potentially over the next few weeks, will shape the next generation. Long after the headlines fade and the talking points are forgotten, the consequences will remain, written into the meaning of citizenship, the authority of law, and the character of the nation itself. No nation can outsource its future to avoidance. No society can long survive by pretending the hard questions will resolve themselves if left unanswered. Eventually, the cost of inaction becomes greater than the cost of decision. That is where we stand now. The choice before us is unavoidable. We can affirm that the United States remains a nation governed by law, or we can allow that law to dissolve into suggestion. Every subsequent generation inherits a country it did not build from scratch, and every generation decides what it will pass on. Enforcement is the quiet, necessary work of self-government. A nation that cannot say no can no longer say yes to anything that matters. Not to citizenship, not to equality under the law, and not to the promise it makes to future generations. The future, ladies and gentlemen, belongs to the countries that believe in themselves enough to enforce their laws. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from South Carolina.
Thank you. To my colleague, Senator Schmidt, well said, well done. It's a very logical argument about what's at stake. So I want to tell you where I'm at. I'm an appropriator, and I can never remember putting a hold on an appropriations bill ever before. And I'll tell you why I've done it. But I also want to acknowledge the appropriations process and Chairman Collins. We've got a package of bills that are bipartisan. From a fiscal conservative side, they spend less than the CR. To all the people in our conference who demand the appropriations do better, we've delivered, but you've given no acknowledgement. You keep saying stuff that's unrealistic. You push the system in a way that nobody can deliver. Politically, you're dumb as a rock. I'm not going to mention you. You know who you are, but you probably don't if you're that dumb. We're asking sometimes to make points that are not good for the Republican Party or the country. Might be good online, might help you raise a few bucks, but I'm tired of that. Count me out. Senator Collins, you've worked with Democrats and Republicans, and before us is a package of bills that I've all supported. Why am I holding? What happened? What happened in Minnesota has to be addressed. Senator Schmidt laid out the choices. I'm arguing to both parties. We need to do a little soul searching here. The man who was shot, I've seen the video. It needs to be investigated. I'm sure it will. There are things being done on the ICE side that a lot of Americans are uncomfortable with. I get that. To my Democratic colleagues, if you want to try to make it more professional, count me in. If you want to have more accountability, count me in. But your rhetoric, count me out. If you were from a foreign country, Senator Schmidt, listening to the debate on the cable channels, you thought we were the Gestapo. Have you had any stories about a guy getting his finger bit off? The ICE agents and the Border Patrol and all federal law enforcement involved in this has been slandered and smeared. And to the Republican Party, where have you been? Count me in for holding them accountable. Where are you at, leaders? Where have you been? These people are patriotic. They're away from home. These crowds follow them to their hotel. They intimidate their families. The people pushing this are nuts. They're not normal. The man who got shot, investigate. But do not tell me that he didn't have an agenda. Look what happened 10 days before. Maybe excessive force, let's look. But don't play a game like the people out in the streets that are harassing ICE, that they're not part of the problem. The real problem is not Kristi Noem. You can say whether she's done a good job or not. Stephen Miller. The real problem is that there are 12 states in America who openly defy federal law. Why are we dealing with this? During the 4 years of Joe Biden, you obliterated our borders. You let anybody and everybody that could get here. You created chaos, and a lot of Americans have been destroyed by your illegal immigration policy, and all you want to talk about over there are the cops. Senator Schumer, you blame me, I blame you. I work with you on comprehensive immigration reform. It's not I can't get there, but when you got in charge with Biden, you did everything conservatives were afraid of. You ignored the law. Has anybody mentioned Laken Riley lately? The Laken Riley Act was a great piece of bipartisan legislation by Senator Britt from Alabama. We all came together to say, no more Laken Rileys. Well, what are we talking about? Laken Riley was killed by an illegal immigrant who was in detention in Texas and released because they had no bed space. Under the law, the DHS secretary cannot mass release people. They have to do it on a case-by-case basis. They were releasing people by the thousands. This young lady is dead because they had no place to hold him and they let him loose, knowing he might be dangerous. He makes his way to Georgia and he murders her. 1 year ago, yesterday, we signed into law the Laken Riley Act. To the Republican Party, why didn't we talk about that? Why didn't we remind the American people that part of what we're doing here is to not go back to the Joe Biden ways? We made a mistake here. We're on the run in an 80% issue, and I'm tired of it. We should be reminding the American people we're different than our colleagues on the other side. We're not going back to Joe Biden policies. You can be unnerved by what's happening in Minneapolis. I get it. But the problem is you want Band-Aid solutions. We're going to have a vote on the floor of the United States Senate in 2 weeks as to whether or not we should criminalize the act of local and state officials who willfully disobey laws on the books because it's good politics for them. If we could go back in time, we probably should have put George Wallace in jail for defying civil rights. These laws were on the books long before Trump. What is the right answer when a state or a mayor says, I don't like this federal law, I'm not going to do it because it's good politics for me? I think you risk going to jail. We cannot live in a country this way, where you get to pick and choose the laws you don't like. You can't have 50 state immigration policy. Sanctuary city policy is killing this country. To the 12 states that are doing this, stop. How are you ever going to fix illegal immigration if there are pockets of the country that if an illegal immigrant can get there, they're home free? That's what Senator Schmidt was saying. If you want to reform ICE, count me in. But if you don't get to the root cause of the problem, then you're really not serious about solving it. I will not lift my hold on this bill until I get guaranteed a vote on my legislation that would criminalize the conduct going forward. And what conduct am I talking about? State and local officials openly defying federal law that's been on the books for decades, incentivizing more illegal immigration, massive taxpayer ripoff, and a breakdown of law and order. To these 12 states, you're screwing it up for the rest of us. You need to change your policies and comply with the law that's been on the books for decades, and this should be a punishment. To me, what you're doing is you're inciting chaos. You're putting people's lives at risk. You literally should go to jail if you will not enforce the law, abide by the law. What a novel concept. You break the law, you go to jail. Except you're an elected official, I guess. We have an exception. If you're doing what liberals like, then you actually can break the law. No, you can't. I want to vote on it. And if you got a better idea, count me in. That's my idea. If you can think of a better idea, let me know. If you got ideas about reforming ICE to make it more professional, count me in. But what we will not do in 2 weeks is leave unaddressed the root cause of the problem. And that is 4 years of the Biden administration, 11 million people coming to the country, only God knows why they're here and where they're from, and the chaos they have created. Laken Riley is one example of too many where somebody died because of stupid, dangerous policies. President Trump, like him or not, is trying to lower the temperature in Minneapolis. Tom Homan, good job. But he's not going to quit, and I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up on undoing the damage. I've had it. I've worked with Democrats and Republicans to fix illegal immigration. Now you're doing everything to make it worse. I'm not going to sit on the sidelines and not get in this debate and say, sanctuary city policy is dangerous, it's insane, it needs to be fixed. You can convince me ICE can be made better. I don't think I will ever convince you to abandon sanctuary cities because you're wedded to it on the Democratic side. Let's have this debate. In 2026, if you want to go back to Biden, vote for the Democrats. In 2026, if you want to try to get the country back on a rational footing, vote for us. We're not perfect, but they're not either. So, what would it take to lift my hold? A vote, not an outcome. I'm like any other senator. I don't demand a lot, but I am demanding that my solution to fixing sanctuary cities at least have a vote. You're going to put ideas on the floor to make ICE better. I want to put an idea on the floor to get the root cause of the problem, and that's not unreasonable. Vote any way you want. I'm asking this body to guarantee me that vote, and we move forward. Second thing. What happened with Jack Smith? Here's what happened to me. I didn't know, but now I know. They literally started asking the phone company about my phone calls professionally and personally during a period of time when I was chairman of the Judiciary Committee by subpoena. No one's ever suggested I broke the law. This actually really bothers me. If I were a Democrat, I would be bothered too. The original Arctic frost provision was signed off by Leader Schumer and Thune, Senator Thune, and it was seen as to have an ethical problem. Not my intent. I fixed it. I changed the language so it would comply. No enrichment by me or anybody else. But I'm not going to give up on the idea that we should abandon holding Jack Smith accountable. The House, you took the Arctic frost language of the Senate and took it all out. You could have called me about the 500,000. I'd be glad to work with you. You jammed me. Speaker Johnson, I won't forget this. I got a lot of good friends in the House. If you think I'm going to give up on this, you really don't know me. So how about this idea to my House colleagues? Why don't we expand a private cause of action to the 430 Republican groups that may have been abused by Jack Smith? Nothing to do with me. You took the provision and you gutted it. You took the notification provision out, telling senators or congressmen they're asking for your phone records when you're not under criminal investigation, you should know. Senator Peters and I are this close to finding a bipartisan solution to protect the body in the future. It's Republicans today, it could be Democrats tomorrow. We should all want to be notified as senators in a separate branch of government, the executive branch is looking for our phone records unless we're charged or investigating a crime. That's just common sense. They took that out. There was a stampede in the House. Everybody says, well, it passed unanimously in the House. I could care less. What you did, I think, was wrong. You overreacted. We'll fix the 500,000. Count me in. But you took the notification out. I'm not going to give up on that. I'm demanding a vote on the floor of the United States Senate to an amendment that requires notification to a member of Congress if their phone records are being looked at by the executive branch unless they're under criminal investigation. That's a fishing expedition. We should all be against that. I'm going to demand a vote on the floor that groups, not members of Congress, who may have been harmed by Jack Smith have a private cause of action. Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA, the Republican National Committee, the Conservative Partnership Institute, the American First Policy Institute, Save America PAC, My Pillow, 430 Republican-aligned groups and individuals, 197 subpoenas against these groups and what they were doing. To the House, if you expect me to deny these people a chance to have their day in court against Jack Smith, you're talking to the wrong guy. I'm urging the Speaker, give these people and anybody else we find, 430 groups, a chance to hold Jack Smith accountable in court. Nothing to do with me. And if you don't do that, you're giving a pass to what I think is the most abusive investigation maybe in the history of the country. Jack Smith. Within 3 days of President Trump announcing I'm going to run again, they have a special counsel, and within 6 months, they got 90 felony charges in the most liberal districts in the country. I believe it was a coordinated effort to make Trump unelectable. I believe it was lawfare, and I'm going to pursue my beliefs. As to me, what have I done to justify this? He says he can defend what he did to me. Great. Get a good lawyer. See you in court. What did I do wrong? I'm the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. I'm asking questions. When it came to January the 6th, I think I was more the solution than the problem. I took this floor and say, enough. I don't think the election was stolen. There may have been some abuses, but I'm done. And what happens? I find out during all this time, they're looking at me for being involved in a plot to steal the election when I'm the biggest advocate. Enough. You actually used my name to Verizon. See you in court. To the government. Donald Trump is suing the IRS for $10 billion because somebody at the IRS may have leaked his records. You should sue. If our government can't be sued by people, only by people not in it, then people like us are wolves or lambs to the slaughter. If they ever say that because you're in the government you have no rights, that because I'm a senator, my right to use my phone without being interfered with no longer exists, that's insane. I'm going to pursue the damage done to me, hoping it will deter others in the future. I hope after all this is over, people will not be going on fishing expeditions to find out who a senator was calling and why they were calling ever again unless they believe that senator's committed a crime. Is that too much to ask? This is a defining moment about what's the root cause of the problem on immigration. Senator Schmidt, you're right. People have made mistakes in Minnesota. But the reason we have this chaos is that 12 states are pursuing policies that are insane. I will not enforce federal law because I don't like it. And it's popular. Those days are over. And if a conservative, if you start doing that stuff, we've had clerks of court that would refuse to do laws around marriage. I had a opponent in the 2016 race. I didn't last long. He did better. There's some lady somewhere saying, I'm not going to recognize the certificate of gay marriage because it violates my religious beliefs. And that was her job, right? And one guy said, I think she's right. I will go to jail with her. And I said, we will miss you. I'm not going to jail for that. I've got my own views about gay. But if you're a public official, you don't get to have your own views and be a veto. So on the right, there were a lot of people wanting to make a point. I don't agree with gay marriage. I'm not going to follow the law. Well, you could go to jail too. That's my point. Our political desires have to have some boundaries around here. So I am willing to lift my hold. I'm willing to vote yes. I actually like the products. I'm asking for two simple things. Give me a chance to express myself on what the solution to our problems on immigration are. I'm not asking for an outcome, for a vote. I've got a bill. I want to vote on it. And as to Arctic frost, I want to have a chance to have a vote on a version that would expand private cause of actions for non-members of Congress who may have a claim against Jack Smith. It'd be up to them to prove it. And I want to work with Senator Peters to see if we can find a way to give us notice so that the next administration can't fish for who we're talking to. They got to actually have a real reason. That's all I'm asking. And I think those are reasonable things. I will end where I began. To the appropriations process, it's a miracle we've done it the way we've done it. It's actually what we've been hoping for. Everybody who's been complaining in our conference, let's get back to regular order. Well, when we try to get back to regular order, they won't let us. Let's do less spending. We checked that block. Well, that's not enough. We actually have, Senator Tillis, appropriations below CRs. And like all of a sudden, we're still the bad guys. People have said, let's go to the floor and debate. Well, they won't let us get to the floor. So there are people in our conference, I've just like had it. We got to have a regular, to our leadership. You're my friends. We're playing not to lose. They, on the other side, have the courage of their convictions. They're coming out here with 21 things that we should do to stop abuses in Minneapolis. We're just sitting around looking at each other, worried. Hold the people accountable in ICE who may have broken the law. But stand up for those in the field trying to protect America and have the courage to say, it's not about Kristi Noem, whether you like her or not. It's not about Stephen Miller, whether you like him or not. It's a deeper, bigger problem. And that's a debate worthy of a great country. So to my Republican colleagues, we need to up our game. I'm not asking you to do things that I think are unachievable. Have a vote. If we lose, we lose. But I am frustrated, and there are a lot of people out there frustrated, that the moment is not being met. I think it's time to reevaluate. To my Democratic friends, you think you got the upper hand? You may for the moment, but what you're asking for is really too much. And part of your problem is you haven't really acknowledged the Laken Rileys of the world and all the people have had their lives upended. That's not balance. You're probably right about ICE reform, but none of you, no protesters, nobody up in arms about this young lady being murdered and thousands other like her. So in 2 weeks, we're going to have a debate. I'll lift my holes. All I ask is to have a voice in that debate. Down the road, all I ask for is to give access to people I think were harmed by Jack Smith. They'll have to prove their case, nothing to do with me, and protect the body against fishing expeditions. That's what I'm asking. I hope we can get there, and I'll end where I began. It's not about the appropriations process. I actually think we've done a damn good job beyond what I ever expected. Now, the Arctic Frost Amendment, nobody talked to me. I've talked to Senator Collins. We'll get that right. Final thought, I told Senator Thune. What does it matter if a single senator says the entire House is wrong? we should respect that senator and let them have their say. I've been told the White House doesn't like this. And I told the White House last night, I don't care if you like it or not. I literally texted my friends at the White House, if I were you, I would not call me tonight. And they didn't call me. I don't work for the White House. They're my political allies. I'm close to President Trump. I don't work for him. I don't work for the House. I've been in the House. I enjoyed it. I like this better. Why do I like the Senate better? Because one person has a say. So when I heard that, well, the House passed it, I think they made a mistake. I think they went too far. The 500,000 thing, let's fix. But you took it all out because there's a rush to judgment, political stampede. So don't ever come to me ever again and say you're just one voice. That's not a good reason to not let me know what's going on or to deny me a chance to have that voice. To every senator in this body, when they started this stuff a long time ago, 250 years ago, they made you special. There's things that we can do that nobody in the government can do as a single senator. I am not giving that right away to any friend or foe in the White House. I'm not letting the House take that right away from me. I'm not letting the leadership take that right away from me. And you know why you should sort of be in my camp? It could be you tomorrow. Senator Tillis, you've done some things by yourself that you thought were right. We need more of that, not less of that. Senator Collins, you got ripped by the president and took it in a way that I think people in Maine should be proud of. I don't know what was said, but it was reported as pretty tough. And you stood your ground. And I don't agree with you about the vote, but I know with Susan Collins, here's what I get. She'll listen, she'll make her mind up. And if you think you're going to change Susan Collins by a phone call, you really don't know her very well. She does it with a smile, problem solving. There's not enough of it. So this is a time for all of us to reflect. I never do this. I never hold things. I never say, I got to have my vote or else. I'm doing it now because I think it will reset. I think it will reset the debate. I think it would be good for my party to up our game. I think it would be good for the Democrats to have a challenge on their hands.
Does the Senator yield for a question?
I do.
Thank you, Senator. You and I were talking last night. You mentioned you closed with resetting the debate. I think that's so important right now because we're talking about appropriations bills, which is fine, and I've fully supported that, and the chairwoman's done a great job. But what we're also hearing now, the Democrats have now moved to, they want a policy debate and policy changes on appropriations bills, which, by the way, I thought we weren't supposed to do in this place. But that's what they want to do, whether it's in 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever we come up with on this potential CR for DHS. And I think it's very important for us to remind the country how we got here. This didn't start this weekend in Minneapolis. It didn't start last year when President Trump came into office. It started in January of 2021 when Joe Biden let 15 million people in here illegally and fought every single attempt to stop it. And what we discovered was that laws don't really mean anything if they're not enforced. And we have a president now who ran on the central platform of enforcing our immigration laws and deporting people here illegally. And the Democrats cannot accept that. They can't come to grips with that reality, that the American people, I hear a lot of, we're preserving democracy. Well, if democracy means anything to you, it means that when the American people saw what happened and they sent this guy back here to clean up the mess, that maybe we ought to respect that for a year and a half. But they don't want to do it. So we're going to have this debate, right? So the reason why I laid out the 4 ideas is I want to make very clear to my Democrat colleagues, this is a home game for us. You want the debate on immigration? Bring it on. And we can be out here every single day for 2 weeks or 4 weeks, every single hour, because the American people are fed up with this. And I know you believe that too.
Yeah, thank you. Is that a question?
It is.
Okay.
That was a question mark at the end. I know you believe that
The
too.
answer is yes.
I know you believe that too.
Yeah, I do believe it too. I hadn't slept in a while, but but it's just normally not me. Senator Collins, I talked before, if we do this, if we can't get appropriations through until we solve a policy debate, we're never going to appropriate again. Today it's immigration. Tomorrow it could be abortion. The next day it could be regulatory reform. Senator Collins is very worried that policy debates need to be done in authorizing committees. To my authorizer committees, what have you done lately? Homeland Security. Senator Johnson, what did we do? These committees are becoming political jousting. Authorizing committees have to be bigger than making points. And you get mad at the appropriators, well, do your job. Senator Risch is working well with Senator Shaheen, but we haven't reauthorized the State Department in like 25 years. So this is a dangerous model. And to my Democratic colleagues, you would be cheering on putting the clerk in Tennessee or wherever she was in jail for not recognizing gay marriage because she disagreed with the Supreme Court. You would be cheering, put her in jail. But you're going to defend some mayor who says, I will not cooperate with the federal government as I'm required to by law. That's politics for you. You're all politics all the time. I've worked on immigration. Senator Tillis has worked on immigration. Senator Collins has. When you got in charge, you blew by everything you said you weren't for.
And wouldn't you agree that the reason why we're here, if it was about ICE, or if it was about DHS, or if it was about President Trump, you would see this everywhere in the country. The fact of the matter is, the instance of violence against ICE agents is 500 times more likely in 9 sanctuary counties in this country. And so Minneapolis has become the epicenter. Why? Because the local law enforcement doesn't help ICE agents. They're having to do the job the local law enforcement might do. They're not telling them when criminals are being released on the streets. Think about that. If the American people knew that murderers and rapists and child molesters who are illegal immigrants, that we're not going to tell federal law enforcement about it because you want everybody to stay here indefinitely, that's insane. And that's why it's dangerous. It's dangerous.
Well, let me end on this. I made my point, I hope. Laken Riley is murdered, dead today, because immigration policy was constructed to the point they had too many people, not enough beds, and they let the man go. He was released because of lack of detention space, not because of some merit under the law. She is dead. A year ago today, we signed the law. There are a bunch of cases like Laken Riley, rape, murdered, dead. There's two sides to this debate. I get what you're saying about ICE going too far. I am with Senator Schmidt. God bless these people for willing to do it. The ones that did it wrong, hold them accountable. I am passionate about cleaning up this mess. It was a mess that needs to be cleaned up. President Trump's adjusting with Holman, but I'm not going to give up on the idea that the root cause of the problem is not Trump. It's not Miller. It's not Noam, all the people you hate. The root cause of the problem is that you've instilled into your base it's okay to defy law when you like it. 12 states are ignoring federal law because it's good politics for those governors and those mayors. Like the clerk, you don't have the ability to override a law, Supreme Court case, because you don't like it. If you don't like the decision of the Supreme Court on gay marriage and you're a public official, quit your job. You got to follow the law. If you're a mayor or a governor and the law is clear, follow it. And if you don't follow it, then you're committing a crime. We're never going to have law and order until we insist on it. Appreciate this moment. I appreciate my colleagues listening to my frustration. I am ready to move forward. My requests are reasonable. I celebrate the accomplishments of the Appropriations Committee, but this debate that we're going to have in 2 weeks is long overdue. I just ask to have a seat at the table and a voice. Thank you. I yield.
The senator from North Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sometimes when I hear floor speeches down here, I think of my wife, who I love dearly. I'll be married to her 39 years in June. But, Mr. President, for about the first 5 or 10 years of our relationship, I'd do something stupid, and she rightfully got mad. And then I felt like I had to hear every other stupid thing I'd done since I met her 5 or 10 years before. There were a lot of very valid points made here today. Very few of them have anything to do with what's ahead of us this weekend. To try and explain where we are here is that Senator Collins has done an extraordinary job with her hand on the rudder of getting 5 appropriations bills that are ready to go to the President's desk. We have an agreement that was between the President and the Democrats before us. The Homeland Security bill has had to be severed for a variety of reasons, and I'll get to that too. And we're trying to address that through a continuing resolution. We're trying to decide if that's 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or 6 weeks. That continuing resolution, incidentally, because of the way we fund the government here, would actually provide more money during the CR than we have in the underlying appropriation that we hope to pass someday. But, Mr. President, the reason why we're not moving forward today doesn't have anything to do with the Democrats. It has to do with a handful of Republicans who are refusing to let us move forward. And the fact of the matter is, the reason why we had one of the longest, we set a record, the longest shutdown in U.S. history is because some of my colleagues decided to hold up for about 35 or 37 days before we finally came to an agreement. I think we just got to be truthful to the American people. I'm not going to try and outwit the eloquence and the expertise of 2 accomplished prosecutors. I'm just kind of trying to make it real for people that may be watching. We're going to shut down the government because some Republicans refuse to take the win, refuse to take a negotiated agreement that the President agrees with. President Donald J. Trump agrees with what we can do to avoid a government shutdown. So it just seems silly to me when you parse through all that stuff, sort of like when I'm getting hammered by my wife for all the dumb things I did. Yeah, she was right to be mad at me for the last dumb thing I did, but I thought we'd finish those other arguments. Now we're bringing all that stuff back in. And I love you, Susan. But I mean, let's just lower, when we're talking about lowering the temperature, let's lower the temperature in this chamber and recognize that if we have a shutdown, we own it. Republicans own it. You can say whatever you want to, but it's materially untrue. We have 5 appropriations bills that could fund the majority of the government and not put it into shutdown just by lifting these holds and living to fight for the issues that I agree with when we finally get on the Homeland Security bill. I agree with some of the things my Democrat colleagues want. I've got other things that I'd like to see in the bill. But I don't know why I would hold this up when that real debate is on that bill. Now, to Senator Graham, my neighbor to the south from South Carolina. I'm from North Carolina. I get his frustration with the Jack Smith investigation. It was horrible. He should, I don't know the legal processes, but he should probably be held accountable for prosecutorial misconduct. There are various ways that you can go after Jack Smith if that's really what you're wanting to do. If they did these sorts of surveillance or phone tapping, whatever they did, go after them. Whether or not we should have a $500,000 award for a member who got targeted, I don't want that because that's actually your money. I would like maybe a dollar award to send a message, but come on, guys. And Senator Graham mentioned a $10 billion lawsuit from the president. Really? Where's that money come from? The money fairies or your pocket? If the president's been damaged, of course, he should probably, like any other citizen, receive it. But my goodness, a $10 billion lawsuit seems silly. Now let's talk about Minnesota. I think it was Benjamin Franklin, and he was actually updating something that was attributed to someone maybe 100 years before. But I believe that Benjamin Franklin said something along the lines of better 100 guilty men go free than one innocent be convicted. Now let's talk about Minnesota. Do we really, and look, I get that Mr. Pretty, who was shot, he was obviously agitating. I saw the video of him kicking a tail light out of a truck a week before. Well, why didn't ICE just go ahead and arrest them then and de-escalate then? I've seen the videos more recently, and they're very disturbing. I want the ICE officers who were involved to get a fair shake, but they need to be investigated. To the casual observer, to most people across the United States, it doesn't look right. It certainly doesn't look like us. But there are so many examples of where we want to turn up the pressure when the American people want us to tone it down. Sanctuary states and sanctuary counties are dangerous. In fact, I took every sanctuary city and sanctuary county in my state to task. And I've held them accountable. In fact, I've got a bill I'd like my colleagues to get on. It's called Justice for Sanctuary Cities. It's not something new. I did a couple of Congresses ago. Simply says if a governmental entity has a sanctuary policy, they don't cooperate with federal law enforcement, they release someone who does harm to somebody else, they should have a private right of action and sue that city or town, right? Shouldn't be a problem because the city or town or the state said these are just innocent people. So why should they worry about that? They should endorse it, right? They should embrace it because certainly they're not releasing dangerous people. And the private right of action would only occur if they did. So it's, why don't we start talking about these common sense sorts of ways to lower the temperature, hold people accountable when they're harming ICE agents, and hold ICE agents accountable if they reacted in a way that's not consistent with their law enforcement training. If we do that, I think that the American people will appreciate it. But back on the underlying reason why I'm here today. I think it's wrong for us to shut down the government to make a point. If all you're asking for is a vote, and people need to understand that the Democrats, they have held their members back from offering amendments. We would be able, if we got on this bill, we may have to defend some amendments, but we would be able to move on because that was a part of the agreement. So it's Republicans now, a handful, the vast majority of us are ready to go. Republicans now are wanting to get a vote just to make a point. They've already said, I just want to vote. I know it will probably fail. Well, why don't you reserve that for the vote that we're going to have when we're on the bill that is driving your need for most of those amendments outside of the Jack Smith amendment? I mean, come on, guys, this is not that hard. I can figure it out, and I'm not the smartest person in this chamber. And I think the American people can figure it out if we explain it that way. But at the end of the day, if the government shuts down, I've said repeatedly, the only way you can recognize or fix a problem is you recognize you have one. And if we shut the government down today, we created the problem and we need to fix it. Senator Thune, the majority leader, has done an extraordinary job. Senator Thune wants this vote on the floor. Senator Thune wants to avoid a shutdown. President Trump wants to avoid a shutdown. But Senator Graham's right. One senator has a lot of power. And if you use it judiciously, you can be productive and make a difference. But if you use it in the heat of the moment, you can make a point that not a damn person's going to remember a month later. Thank you, Mr. President.
The senator from Virginia.
Mr. President, thank you so much. I rise to follow my colleague from North Carolina and with Senator Collins, the senator from Maine, on the floor. I hope also to be voting today and hopefully soon on behalf of the bill that is pending before us that would advance 5 completed appropriations bills that are very solid bills. To my point of view, none of us ever think these bills are perfect. There are always things in them we wish weren't and other things that we wish had been in them that aren't. But I think these are very solid bills. And I think it's time, not just because of the shutdown, it's time to advance these bills to the president's desk. And I appreciate that colleagues are recognizing that what we need to do is advance those bills and then focus in a very intense, high-stakes way on what I believe is the need for dramatic reforms of DHS and its agencies. And we all know the controversies, and we all know some things that need to be done, and we'll see if we can reach an agreement. The idea in this proposal is to take 2 weeks to see if we can find it. If we find sufficient reforms, you'll have votes like mine. If we do not find sufficient reforms, that my vote will not go for the ultimate bill. But in 2 weeks, we'll be able to know whether we can provide significant reforms that would curb the abuses that we're seeing and that people all around the world are seeing to our discredit. I was inspired to speak when I heard about the Graham amendments. Now, as I stand here, I've not seen the filed amendments or their texts, and I'm not yet sure whether, in fact, there will be a vote on the amendments that my colleague from South Carolina has described. However, I want to explain why I think both of these amendments would be a very bad idea. And maybe in explaining that, I might be able to convince colleagues not even to vote on them. But if we do have votes, I'm going to be voting no on both and encouraging my colleagues to do the same. Let me tackle the first issue raised by Senator Graham, proposing to offer an amendment that would create some cause of action against, quote, sanctuary cities. I have two very serious concerns about the proposal as he has described it on the floor and as I've read about it. The first is, what is a sanctuary city? Is a sanctuary city or community a city that just says we're a sanctuary city? Is that enough? What if a city doesn't say they're a sanctuary city, but they refuse to enter into a 237G agreement with DHS? What must a city do or not do to be labeled a sanctuary city? If we're going to have a cause of action that would impose damages that would have to be paid by not the city, it all comes from local taxpayers. It would have to be paid by local taxpayers. You have to have a real clear definition of what a sanctuary city is. And I'm very, very worried about any amendment that would try to punish sanctuary cities for two reasons. First, the administration does not know what a sanctuary city is, the Trump administration. And why do I say that? I say it because of actions earlier this year. In May of 2025, last year, in May of 2025, the Trump administration, through the DHS, listed sanctuary cities in each state. They put out a massive list. Now, I didn't pay attention to 49 states list, but I paid a lot of attention to the Virginia list. And let me tell you who was on the Virginia list. There were 20 counties and 13 cities. Virginia has 134 cities and counties. So the Trump administration said 20 counties were sanctuary counties and 13 cities were sanctuary cities. But when we looked at the list, it was comical. It was like Stephen Colbert or somebody had written this list. One of the counties listed was Martinsville County. That's not a county in Virginia. One of the cities that was listed was Tazewell. But wait, that's not a city in Virginia. There is a town of Tazewell that has 4,000. There's a county of Tazewell that has 40,000. It's not clear whether Tazewell City was meant to refer to either or both of those communities. The list of 33 was rife with not only errors but misspellings, but my favorite one was this. One of the cities listed as a sanctuary city in Virginia, Duffield, Virginia. Duffield, Virginia, in the heart of Appalachia, 0.6 square miles, population 73, in the heart of Appalachia, sanctuary city. Well, I don't know, maybe Duffield is a hotbed of like immigrants or something. I went to the census data, the 2020 census data, the 73 people that live in that 0.6 square mile town, 100% Caucasian. It's not a hotbed of immigrants. It's not a sanctuary city. And yet the Trump administration listed them. And this was news all over Virginia. The list got published everywhere. Duffield is a sanctuary city. If the mistakes were made on this list about Virginia, I know they were made about other communities as well. And to its credit, the Trump administration in August put out a new list of sanctuary cities in Virginia. And instead of the 33 that was on the list in May, now there were 0 sanctuary cities. Just 2 months later, 0 sanctuary cities. Clearly, that initial list was prepared by someone who didn't know anything about Virginia, anything about sanctuary cities. I suspect it was AI, and I can't decide whether AI stands for artificial intelligence or artificial ignorance, but it included many communities that definitely are not sanctuary cities. And I've only given you the most egregious errors. If you look at the others that were on that initial list, none of them have ever passed sanctuary city legislation. None of them have refused to cooperate with immigration officials in doing their job. So the first thing about a bill, or an amendment, that would impose a cause of action against sanctuary cities is, how could we trust that it would be applied fairly when the administration can't even figure out what a sanctuary city is? Here's the second reason I would oppose this amendment and urge my colleagues to do the same, should it be offered for a vote. What about local elections? Like, I've heard from many of my Republican colleagues, and frankly, not just Republican colleagues, those of us who've been mayors and governors, we don't think federal officials in this chamber should micromanage everything a city does or a county does or a state does. If folks in Duffield, Virginia, population 73, decide that they don't like being a sanctuary city, which they're not, they could change out their mayor. They could change out their city council. They could elect different people to have different policies. Why would we have a federal cause of action against a city or county that's responsive to its voters? Allow voters to decide whether their elected officials at the local level or state level are embracing the right or wrong policies. We shouldn't use lawsuits, as much as I like them. I was a lawyer for many years and tried a lot of cases. We shouldn't use lawsuits against localities that have the power to elect their own officials to embrace policies and kick out officials if they're embracing the wrong policies. So on Senator Graham's first proposed amendment, a cause of action against sanctuary cities, we can't even really trust that this definition will be worked out right, as evidenced by the problems that the administration has had. And let's let local and state governments govern themselves and the voters kick out people if they're embracing the wrong policies. Let me talk about the Second Amendment, which I also think would be a very bad idea. We squirreled away in a bill that passed out here in November a very unusual provision giving a cause of action for various senators to sue if they felt like they had been unjustly targeted by an investigation connected to what happened in this Capitol on January 6th. Very unusual to create a cause of action for such a limited number of people. And most of us were unaware it was in the fine print of the deal and only found out later to our surprise and chagrin. The House, to their credit, kicked that provision out. Not smart. It should stay out. Senator Graham is now proposing an amendment, and I'm at least gratified that he's not proposing an amendment that just gives like a special, easy pass lane for senators to bring lawsuits. He's proposing an amendment that would allow more generally individuals who had been subject to that January 6th investigation to bring a lawsuit. But let's just hold on for a minute. We're going to create a federal cause of action to allow people who felt they were unjustly targeted by the January 6th investigation to bring a damages lawsuit against the U.S. government. What about somebody who's shot in the back 10 times by an ICE agent? Like, shouldn't that person be able to bring a cause of action against the federal government? That person can't. Not only because the person is dead, Mr. Preddy, but because federal law does not allow that lawsuit. The family of that individual cannot bring a wrongful death action against the United States because of sovereign immunity doctrines. What about somebody manhandled or beaten by an ICE agent or a federal prison guard? Or what about somebody who is mistreated by somebody in a TSA line, a TSA employee? I mean, shouldn't there be a cause of action against a federal employee who abuses somebody in another way, but there isn't. Federal law generally prohibits these claims because of sovereign immunity doctrines against the federal government, and it is near impossible to bring such a claim against the individual federal employee that carried out abusive behavior. So the proposal that Senator Graham is making is to say individuals who were targeted in an investigation about an attack on this Capitol to overturn the peaceful transfer of power will be given a unique status in American law and be able to file lawsuits against the federal government or against federal officials in a way that no one else can, even people who have been grievously injured or even killed by the actions of federal employees. We should not elevate people's concerns about the January 6th prosecution and give them a special status in American law above those who have suffered grievous physical injury and even been murdered. We shouldn't. Now, Senator Graham is a good lawyer, tried many a case. He knows that there has long been a debate about whether and under what circumstances one might create a cause of action for individuals, a federal tort claim for individuals who have been on the receiving end of illegal behavior by federal employees. That's been a debate that has been kicking around for a long time. And if Senator Graham or anyone in this chamber wants to engage in a discussion about what should the parameters of such a cause of action look like and how it shouldn't be just for one group of people, but it should be for anybody whose rights have been grievously violated by the actions of federal officials, that would be a worthy discussion to have. It has some challenges to it. It's not an easy discussion, but it's one that's been going on for a long time, and it would be a worthy discussion to have. But for God's sake, especially in the aftermath of these horrific killings of these civilians in Minneapolis who don't have any ability to seek compensation from the federal government for their losses of life, let's not create a cause of action for a certain group of people who were investigated over their role in the January 6, 2021 effort to overturn the peaceful transfer of power in this country. It is my hope that these amendments will not be called up for a vote. If they are, I will strongly oppose them and encourage my colleagues to do the same so that we can move forward on passing the appropriations bills and then getting into a focused discussion about DHS reform. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I yield the floor.
Mr. President,
The senator from Maine.
I suggest the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call.
Ms. Alsobrooks.
Well, holy crap, can they just talk? Oof. Sorry about that. One of the dogs was out there bugging me, so here we go. We've had our debates. We're going to see what happens here. The old guy's going to talk. Yeah. Have some fun, Aroni. We'll see what's going on with the broader market here. We got some crypto price action. Let me get out of this. Hold on a second here. Let's get out of max screen. Take a look at things right now. How's the silver market looking? And thank you to the 511 of you watching. Silver market now down 24%, taking the profit. Aronis. Pumperoni. Dumperoni. Government shutdown funding lapse on January 31st. 99% chance. XRP's price, go to the 15-minute chart, $1.75. Circle's IPO, another good example of what everyone, yeah, is it pumperoni and is it dumperoni? We're looking at across the board things being not too hot right now. Yep, the market is definitely dumping itself. Several markets are actually dumping itself. Hyperliquid's all over the map. Eleanor, well, she's a cat lady. She's got updates for us in regards to Regaronis. No, you jabronis. There's no updates. Oh, what a frustrating time right now with this going on with them. You could tell there's still a lot of things that they are just not seeing eye to eye on. I mean, it is clear as day that they're just gonna have to take a look. I mean, no rush whatsoever. You could tell the majority of people aren't here yet for the main vote, so we got time until that happens. We might be at this one for a long time. Gear says, why would silver be dumping so hard if it's a safe haven asset? Because silver rocket shipped so much. Look at that, silver's charts. When a safe haven asset does that, there's a lot of wonkiness, and what? There's a lot of profit taking that's going to happen. Because look, when silver is at 110, 115, like everyone's in the profit zone. BTC did that too. When BTC touched, what was it, 126,000? Yeah, there was a lot of profit taking. A lot of profit taking. So, why does silver dump? It's whatever pumps up crazy is going to usually correct pretty crazy too. That's why I would much rather see things be a little bit more stair-stepped on that action. So yeah, am I shocked? Not in the slightest bit. You knew some of these silver players were going to take some profits, and then you're going to hear about the silver FUD. Oh, money from silver is going to be rotating into where? Well, right now the people are parking it as cash, waiting to get in on the next dip-a-roni. Crypto capital of the world, they said. That's coming from Holly. I agree. Yeah, crypto capital of the world. Everyone knew gold and silver was overbought. Mako's bringing that up. Yeah, it was too much too quick. It doesn't mean that it's done running. Hell no. We could still have a heck of a lot more governmental shenanigans going on. Apparently, we're going to get the Senate who's not going to agree to anything. Klaus, you can't say that action wasn't fun. No, it is fun. I love it. Love the action. But like when things just roar like this, you have to expect somewhere along the way is going to be some big time profit taking. It's just natural. When you're staring at bank accounts with extra zeros in them, you're sitting here going, I might need to take some of those gains, convert them into profits. What's the saying? No one ever went broke on profits. Right? And that's what a lot of these people are looking at. They're like, yo, look at this run up. And you saw what happened. People are like, all right, let's try to get really crazy here. Let's try to go to 120 a couple times. You get close and the market pulls back. Meanwhile, the Senate is still playing with themselves. Yeah, for real. That's exactly how this crapola is going. Senate's playing with themselves. They really seem to be getting in for a long grind here. This one seems to be gearing up for some nastiness. You had David Schwartz earlier. Yeah. David Schwartz in his XRP price talk. This guy's not good for price action, I'll tell you that. Nothing goes up forever. Totally true. Totally true. Nothing goes up forever. There's always corrections. Housing's had correction. Oil markets gets correction. I mean, we've seen this. Now, are we going to get anywhere closer with crypto regs on this? I don't know. You see a lot of people on this one side of the aisle not happy with anything Trump related, and Trump and his family are huge into crypto. So you know that's going to be a sticking point for a lot of Democrats out there. And again, the Senate, you had everyone kind of like, let's like gab and yell at each other a little bit, and then let's take another break, make a little bit more moves. What a frustrating time, everyone, I got to be honest with you. But the Senate right now, doing their thing, dragging their feet. Like I said, You'll know there's something juicy when a ton of people start showing up to vote. Because that's what this is. We're waiting for like the full vote. And we're waiting to see if we get a temporary budget thing passed. This would give DHS 2 weeks of funding, but right now it seems like we might not even have in that. Yeah. Bread Garlic House said, but David said XRP had to be at a high price for things to work. Yeah, when David was working for Ripple, now he's left and he's changed his tune. Well said there. Remember when David worked for Ripple, he had to be a mouthpiece for him. Now he could just do whatever the hell he wants. Oh, nice. Housing prices. Yeah, that's something that's going to have to really come down. You got to work on rates for that to happen. That's going to be hard because the bond market hasn't responded to the Fed. Meanwhile, crypto right now isn't looking that good, is it? Volume, pretty crazy right now. 170 billion, you're starting to get a lot of volume showing up. Doing what, everyone? Exchanges making money. Paul Feig says if the United States is not going to be the crypto capital of the world, who will be? I mean, what does the crypto capital of the world mean? Like, you're the place that, like, attracts the most, like, crypto businesses there? I don't give a shit about that. I know you don't care. What do we care about? We care about prices being juicy. I don't care what Ripple and Stellar do as businesses. I care about the assets of XRP, HBAR, XLM, Sol, ADA. You get my point. And there's a big differentiation between those. Always like that. So, you keep doing what you do and you wait. All right, I'm going to see what's happening with the Senate here. I mean, like I said, you don't see a lot of people yet. They're going to be doing this for a while. Broad Location Services says gold will never drop below 3,500 again. You never know. I mean, I saw a massive correction in housing, and you saw housing roared right back. Like, right back. Buy low, hold, repeat. It's not hard. I mean, some assets, though, aren't buy and hold assets. I mean, like, seriously, some people out there that do the buy and hold thing, look at an ADA chart. Okay? Look at an ADA chart. Does that look like a buy and hold thing? That looks like an absolute disaster. I'm not saying it's like totally cooked, dead, but holy crap, that doesn't look good. Aptos is another one, right? APT, Aptos was a really big one that people were, oh my God, this is freaking awesome. An overall chart of Aptos would have you down 82% all time. So no, it's not always buy and hold. You can't rely on that. Some stuff sucks. Aptos, launch action, $8.38. Where is it at right now? $1.44. Yeah, buy and hodl isn't for everything. Some are trading every day. That's true. That's true. Some trade heavy volatility. The meme coins, that's what people like playing. The heavy volatility of trade coins. But the buy and hodl thing does not apply to all crypto. Not every crypto is decent out there. Not every crypto has a good following or is going to do something. Some of them are just going to suck. Aptos is a great example of suck. It's lower than its launch by 82%. Balls. I mean, it's just, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. There's a lot of misconceptions out there about crypto. A lot of, oh, it's backed by this, it's backed by that, market cap. Market cap doesn't mean much. Market cap is just a nice gauge that we all like to use. Do I think there will be some upside to this year? Yeah, the back half of this year should be good for financial markets. Kevin Warsh, for those of you that haven't heard yet today, Kevin Warsh will be replacing Jerome Powell after Powell's done in May. Warsh is expected basically going to do Trump's bidding and try to lower rates aggressively the rest of the year. That's the news. That's the big juice right there. So for me, I think that's a positive because you know what? You have rates coming down on a risk market like crypto. I think that's a really good thing. We just need the regs, to be honest with you. So yeah, we could talk about the good thing like Warsh coming in, but we still need regs. Regs is just a much bigger play. I don't expect him to buck the trend. Whatever the next president does, I expect him to kind of fall in line with that too. I don't think he's that kind of person. So, yeah, Warsh will do what the president wants. The president's only going to pick someone right now that's going to do his bidding. He's not going to pick someone who's going to work against him. It's just, right now, the Republicans need that. They need the next how many months to be good because you got midterms coming up, and the next couple years to be good because you got another presidential election coming up. Powell cannot be fired. For everyone that says Powell should be fired, Powell cannot be fired. Silver right now is at $88 an ounce. I've got the silver charteroni up on the extreme. Right now, waiting on the Senate. And you can tell they're not going quick at all. This one could take a long time. So, let's do this. It is now 12:58. Let's do this. The stream, I am going to chill out with the stream. I'm going to leave stuff going on, music in the background, blah, 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 blah. We'll leave the stream going on if these people come back on. I mean, we could do it, or we could start a new stream later. It's just, the problem is these people are not going quick at all, and there's not a lot of people here. So, let's actually here, you guys, and gals, let's do a little bit of a thing. How do y'all feel? Should we reboot the stream later? Should we reboot the stream later when they appear to have more butts in the seats? How do y'all feel about that? Anyone cool with that? They don't appear to be moving fast. You can kind of see there's no one here in the seats ready to vote yet, so we got some time to go. Honestly, we could be here a good chunk of time. Yesterday they went to like 11:18 at night. We could definitely reboot another stream. I don't have any problems doing that. In fact, what we could do is I'll just click another one right here. I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do that. Let's do that. Let's reboot this later. All right. We'll see when they start doing their thing, when they start kind of getting a little bit more serious. What I can do is I could kind of leave this on in the background for my own thing and see when seats start filling up with people, then we know it's goat time. So let's do this. I'm going to start a new stream. I'll put it up on the calendar. I'll get us to go. I'll put a little music on for us right now, and we will be back later.
Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're chilling when the rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me